Previously on Lost.
I got a $400 diesel Golf. Immediately after starting the car, the radiator intake burst. No! I was very excited to find out that after I put the car back together, it also no longer ran.
Incorrect.
Pin the throttle all the way down. Starts right up. I had installed the governor backwards.
Moment of truth. Fuck.
Luckily, I have the engine from my high school car, a 91 Volkswagen GTI. However, for now,
I'm broke. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Come on, baby. Whoa, shock the fuck out of me.
alright, I've tried this multiple times, and there's a lot of shit to go over on this motor, but I'm going to try one more time and try to not sound like a fucking retard while I'm saying it. But basically, I swapped over all the pulley system from the 8-valve diesel 1.6 liter, so it's going to be running no power steering and one bracket off the harmonic balancer to an AC compressor that's mounted lower and an alternator that's closer to the radiator. So I will have like an open cylinder head, which will make it nicer to work on, and also bracketry that's a lot more friendly to pull off if I ever need to do a water pump on this thing, which I've ran into in the past. I got a donor block that's engine block code RV out of a 91 Volkswagen Jetta. I maintain my 92 Volkswagen GTI's big valve head with the Tektronix Tuning 272 street cam and Tektronix Tuning heavy duty valve springs with titanium keepers and titanium valve spring caps. I've also got triple Y stainless headers on it. I've got an adjustable cam gear, retarded 4 degrees for better torque. I've got a 2-liter ABA oil pump that bolts right up. It's what I always do on these motors. It just runs a lot higher oil pressure. I'm getting rid of the twin Weber 40s and going back to Digifant Mark II injection. I got refurbished injectors and new injector cup seals off of eBay. I'm also going back to having a heater core, which will be nice, and like I said previously, maintaining AC. Got the motor all in, and the trans, everything's refreshed. Noah help me out, say hi Noah. So, I picked up this really nice set of B3 Passat seats, and I'm gonna make them fit the Mark II, in the idea of this being a luxury, like daily driver sort of build. These are really nice because they have the head adjustment, the tilt back, the butt like angle adjustment, and lumbar support adjustment. So I really want to make them work. The only difference between these is that this difference from the rail to this outside slider is the same. All I need to do is basically shorten this in 2 1/8 inches. So I'm going to cut off the brackets here and here and slide them in that amount. And yeah, go try to test fit them. The backs I was able to kind of encourage in with minimal fabricating. So I'll have a set of all 4 matching seats and we'll clean up the interior a lot. Just went and mocked it up and it works well. So I'm gonna run with it and do the driver's side. Alright, I got the seats all finished up and in. They're super comfy, they work well. A lot bigger than the Mark II seats and a lot more adjustable. Now I just have a few bits and pieces, trim pieces I'm gonna put in. Alright, I'm getting ready to paint the diesel Golf. I've done a fucking awful job of filming this. Got it all sanded down and prepped with acetone. Soaked the whole floor in the shop so that dust sticks to it. I painted all the doors and the hatch already with Kyle. Did a terrible job of filming it.
Hey, I'm Kyle.
Yeah, let's get her painted. Alright, so this is a 1985 Volkswagen Golf diesel, which means that it's a CE1, Central Electric 1, fuse box slash engine management system. They were CE1 up until 87 or 88 or 89 or something, and then they switched to CE2, which is a completely different fuse box system that carries over into Mark IIIs as well. So, to put the 90/92 8-valve motor into it, I had to convert it to CE2. Now, you can either rerun all the wiring in the car and rob it all out of a CE2 car and basically create a shell, or you can do a piggyback. So basically what that does is you're running two fuse boxes in the car, the CE1 fuse box and the CE2 fuse box. And the CE2 fuse box will control the cluster, the engine management system, and the fuel system, while all the chassis wiring is run by the CE1 fuse box, basically meaning all the lights, all the AC, the heat, blinker, everything of that sort. So to do this piggyback, there's a handful of things you're going to need. You're obviously going to need a CE2 fuse box. You're going to need both CE2 engine management harnesses. You're going to need a CE2 ECU and ignition module. You're going to need a CE2 engine. And you're also going to need ground and positive wires, a CE2 cluster harness, which is these two plugs, and a CE2 fuel pump slash fuel tank harness. Or you can repin the factory one. In this case, since it's a diesel, it doesn't have a fuel pump from factory, so I had to get a new one. But I'll go over doing that as well. For this entire piggyback process, you're going to want to go off the CE2 fuse box diagram, which I'll link in the description below. This is what the CE2 fuse box diagram looks like. Each plug has a corresponding letter on this fuse box, and they all go in order, and then each plug has its own individual set of pins running from left to right and down. So, starting off with the engine management plugs, it's going to be plug G1, G2, and F. Each plug for every single one of these only fits in a certain way, so it's not that complicated putting them all in. You don't have to be worried about putting them in wrong. It's these three plugs, G1, G2, and F. And then also coming off of F is a power plug that's going to go to Z1 up in that top right corner. To get your cluster working, you're just going to need your cluster and the harness that goes straight to it. And it's going to be plug U1 and U2. If you're using a CE2 fuel pump harness, it's just going to be plug M with your fuel pump sending unit ground going to plug K pin 11, which is this very top left one right here. If you're using the factory CE1 fuel pump and fuel sending unit, you're going to want to repin with pigtails the main fuel pump power to plug in pin 2, the main fuel pump ground to plug in pin 1, and the fuel sender positive wire to pin 3. And then just like before, you're going to want to run the fuel level sending ground to plug K pin 11, this one. You're also going to need Z2, your main fuse box ground, and Y3, your main fuse box power. That's pretty much everything. You're just going to need 2 more things. This is the exciter wire for the alternator. For the alternator system on these, you're going to have your main power wire and then your exciter wire. So that wire is just going to run straight through the firewall to the lower pin on the alternator. And that exciter wire is going to be plug A2 pin 1. And then this is the last thing, and this is the only part that really gets kind of tricky. So with this, since it's a diesel car, the starter is controlled completely through a separate wiring harness. So it was able to leave the ignition module completely untouched. So this runs the starter, and then the entire fuse box, which again powers the fuel system, the engine system, and the cluster, is turned on with a switch jumping between plug H1, pin 2 and 4. So you can see, flip this switch, you can hear the fuel pump going, and then it turns on your cluster and also will turn on ignition. This is just my switch for AC, and this is my fans. You can normally just hook those up through the CE1 harness, but I had a bad thermo switch, and also it's complicated on the diesel to hook back up the AC. If you have a gas CE1 car, you might have to jump it into a third pin and run it into the ground for the ignition module. But just go onto the CE2 Resources website and look through it a little bit. So my finished setup just basically looks like this. Fuse box right in the dash. I just need to tuck up some wires. But basically, take it out of gear. Make sure it doesn't roll out of the garage. Basically just flip this switch. Turns on all the gas pump and ignition, and then the starter is ran by the ignition switch. There you go. And then you can basically turn the key however you want after that, because like I said, it only controls the chassis stuff. To turn off the actual engine, it's just like that. That's pretty much everything for the wiring. I would recommend just throwing the fuse box up into the lower dash bolster right here. Since it's a C1 car, it should already have a pocket, and you just cut out the back of it and it slides in nicely. Hope it helps.
Final touch. There it is. One happy elephant.
I want a bicycle.
A bicycle? Well, bicycle have to take a lot of balloons, and honestly, Uncle Jeremy's a little tired right now, so why don't we do something like, let's say a giraffe?
I just want a bicycle!
Why are you yelling at me?
Alright, so just finished getting everything torn off. Basically what's on the docket for doing to this motor is just reliability mods. There's a mystery squeak coming from the engine that I think is from either the belt tensioner or the water pump, and the water pump has a lot of play in it, so I got a new water pump anyway. I also got an intake gasket because I couldn't get one in time when I was rebuilding it originally, so it was just RTV. I got exhaust gaskets because the old ones I reused and I think they're going out a little bit. I got new hydraulic lifters for this engine because it was starting to make some lifter noise, and they probably were collapsed from last time when the engine got over revved. I got my old short shifter, which I'm just gonna pop on there. I don't even like the way it shifts any better, honestly. It just looks nice. I got a new idle control valve. I got a new oil pressure sending unit because this one is leaking out of the rubber on top. You can see there's some oil down there. It's actually leaking out of the rubber by the spade connector on the very top, right there. Oh, right there. so I got that. And then I also got an upper timing cover, because I didn't have one. The only thing I'm waiting on and need to get is a new timing belt tensioner, because I'm pretty sure that this one's whining. I don't know what else would be causing it. And then I also now need to get new spark plugs, because 3 out of 4, when I pulled them off, snapped the end of the metal grommets. So yeah, gotta get online and order those 2 things. And then other than that, just clean a little bit more. And then I'm also gonna be polishing this intake, as well as painting this bracketry, the valve cover, the fuel rail, and maybe this guy white to match the car. So yeah. Alright, I got everything back on, everything painted. All they have left to paint is just the fan shroud, but in the meantime, I'm waiting on a valve cover gasket, and I can't drive because the other car is not registered. So I'm just going to clean up this engine bay a little bit more. Going to buff the airbox, clean the fan shroud, and probably buff the windshield wiper fluid reservoir as well. As far as the engine bay goes, I finished up everything that I wanted to. Gonna have to recharge the AC again, obviously, which is a bummer. But as you can see, it's a lot cleaner. The polished intake looks nice. I had to get a new idle control valve, painted a few pieces here and there, cleaned up the airbox, cleaned up the windshield wiper reservoir. I'm gonna get a new one of these, because I tried to clean it up, but it's just dirty on the inside. Since it's the diesel one, it had a bunch of oil in it from the head gasket. But yeah, also wrapped up all the wiring, as you can see. It's just, there's so much in here because it has 2 wiring harnesses in here, so yeah. Also just recently finally got around to installing the rain gutters. It was a bit of a pain. I was just waiting on those plastic clips to go in. Originally I was gonna buy a kit and redo all these seals, but it was expensive enough and this car is already beat up enough that I decided not to. So yeah, you can't really even tell when the doors are closed that the seals are messed up. And it definitely makes it look a lot cleaner. I also installed these guys back onto the car, cover up those holes. I don't think I'm gonna put back on the side trim because I like how it looks without it. So since this used to be a diesel, its old exhaust was super puny and tiny. So I ended up going with a Tectonics tuning 2 1/4 inch stainless exhaust all the way back. It's a pretty nice kit. It is definitely a little louder than I wanted it to be. It basically just consists of a resonator and a muffler, but it's louder than the one that was on my other car.
I'm done. Cut the show. I'm done. Take me off. Take me off. Cut the show.
I'm not finished.
But
motherfucking beat, nigga.